What is going on, you positive peoples? My name is Cody Carlson, aka Carl. Welcome back to another episode of Carl's Notes of Positivity. I hope you all are doing so well, and once again, thank you for tuning in to another episode. I'm so excited to take this journey on with you guys. If you like what you hear today, make sure you like and subscribe, and tell somebody that you love them. Spread the word of this positivity journey and what you've been learning. And I'm just super blessed to be where I am in life, and I hope you guys are all too. I would love, without further ado, to pray for you all. So if you can just bow your heads with me, I would love to pray for you. Heavenly Father, just thank you for this wonderful day you've given us. I just pray for everybody listening to this episode. I just pray that as we're all in different instances in life, I pray that we can just stay true to ourselves and just really embrace your word, God. I just pray that we all stay disciplined in our own ways of how we're tackling life, and I just pray that we're able to spread continuous light and joy through you, God, to the people around us. God bless everybody around. Thank you for everybody that you've provided me with personally. And we all love you so much. Thank you for everything, Lord. It's in your name I pray all this, and amen. Awesome. Well, today's episode, I kind of just wanted to cover the topic of fear of man. I think reflecting on my life, I really just wanted to talk about this topic just because my past 8 or 9 years, I realized that I really struggled with this fear. I realized I was very insecure and really did care what people thought about who I am. And I feel like when it came to my identity, I hid it a lot too. I was really afraid to be my true self. And as I started diving into faith this past year or so, I realized that I love who I am, and I just really wanted to be myself. And it's a lot more of a freeing feeling than I think I would ever feel. So I wanted to cover this topic today, and I feel like the first thing that when it comes to this is just understanding what the fear of man is, and how I interpret it is just my own way. There's definitely other avenues you could take to learn about it and to understand it. And I think when it comes to how I interpret it, it's more or less just the constant worry about what others think, the hesitation before speaking your truth, the need of approval before you act on something. I think all those are really the definition of what fear of man is. It's just really letting others dictate your life than what you think you should do. And I think I really, like I said, I struggle with that a lot, especially in my recent years, just because I always wanted to do the right thing, but I was afraid if I do this one thing, is it really going to mess up, a friendship, a relationship, what people thought about me. And I realized, like I said, diving into faith, the only person I need to fear is God, and I shouldn't really fear what other people think about me because they're not dictating my life. I'm dictating my own life through Him above. So just wanted to cover that today. I'm really excited to dive deep into this. And I think when it first comes to fear of man, it just really starts with the growth mindset. I think growth mindset is just all about growing, right? I think a lot of us tend to be fixed-minded these days, where we're not open to hearing anything else, and we're just fixed on what we should be doing in that moment with other people's opinions in our mind, right? For example, I think when it comes to, I don't know, I guess we can do a sports analogy where somebody's trying to get coached and all that, and they're like, no, that's not right, like, you should be doing this, and then you're stuck on that. And then when somebody else tells you something different, then it's like, oh, well, he told me that, I'm sticking to that, right? I think when you have a growth mindset, you understand, okay, I'm gonna fail, right, but I'm open to any ideas on how to get better. And you kind of go about it like, okay, let's try this. If it doesn't work, let's try this, right? It's very helpful in the workplace. As I've found out, I've failed so many times now in my it's 11 months today. In my 11 months of being in the workforce, I've failed so many times already. But I think with my growth mindset of just getting back up and getting going, I realized that, I'm going to fail over and over again, but we're going to get it right at the end of the day, and we're going to get better each and every time. So if you go into that mindset with this fear, I think it really helps you overcome it. And that's just because if you really open your mind to saying like, okay, we don't have to care what this person thinks. We can incorporate it into our mind. We're open to it, but we shouldn't let this overtake us. We can consider it, and then we can decide if it's true or false, and we can move forward. And I think with fixed mindset, you would just take it in and you would just say it as true. Like, okay, well, this is true. It has to be. So we're just going to stick with it, and this is going to dictate our life. That's not it at all. So I think when it comes to growth mindset, the Bible talks about this too, where failure, rejection, misunderstanding don't define you at all, and you shouldn't let others define you too. Proverbs 29:25 says, "The fear of man lays a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is safe." And I just think that's so true, just because, like I said at the beginning of this episode, I really focused on the fear of man, but when I focused that pain point to the fear of God, you just realize that you can trust in him and he'll just guide you in your own path. So I think that's just like the first part of this equation of overcoming this fear that I've learned in my life, is just realizing, okay, let's dive deep into our faith and let's understand this is not something we should hold up to our standard. We should have our own standard about ourselves, and we should go about it in each of our own ways. I think another good way of reframing the fear of man is just understanding this question of, instead of saying to yourself, what will they think, ask, what would God do if I didn't step forward? And I think this is such a huge thing that a lot of people my age struggle with, I believe personally, is that a lot of people are afraid to take action just because they are so scared of what people think they're going to respond with, right? So for example, if you're starting something new, so like this podcast, I was so scared to do this at first, but after multiple months of contemplation with myself and just kind of praying about it, I understood that, you know, if we just try this and it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if we don't try at all, we're never going to know if it's not going to work. And then, I don't know, if we try this and old Karen over there says that it's worst thing she's heard, whatever, that's fine. That's okay. Because I did my best, and I really think I'm putting my effort into this all I can get. I'm putting all of my effort that I can give into this, so I shouldn't let her opinion, I'll consider it, but I shouldn't let that opinion take over my life. You know what I mean? So I think when it comes to this, another verse that I love pointing out is 2 Timothy 7, chapter 1:7. "For God gave us a spirit, not of fear, but of power and love and self-control." And I think that is just such a grateful moment to soak in. I think when you think of this verse, you can just really breathe in the courage, love, and self-control that God gives us all, and just understand that you are made for a reason. You have a purpose on this planet. You might as well just go explore it and find out what God has on his path for you, and not let anybody get in your way, not let any opinions stop you. Remove those roadblocks and understand you don't have to let yourself be held back from other people's opinions. I think it's just really cool to think about. I've really, like I keep on emphasizing this, I've really struggled with this throughout my past. I think when, even in my baseball days, I was so insecure of just like trying to be the best person I can be, and then I would let other people's opinions like take over my mindset, and it would cause failures on the field too, right? Because I'm so focused on that I can't even think straight. So I just recommend that you soak in this moment, soak in the thought of you do matter, you can create change, you don't need other people's opinions or validation, you only need God's validation through your heart. Just a positivity boost. I think one side consequence that comes with this fear as well is not of just other people's, but our own mindset of, can I really do this? Who am I to think I can do this? That is called imposter syndrome, my friends. I think we've all had struggles with this in the past as well. I know I've had, where I have talked to myself so horribly at times, thinking, why should you be allowed to do this? Who do you think you are? You're not him, bro. Like, all those stuff, right? And I think it's just the same lie over and over again that fuels that fear of man and tells us that we shouldn't do this. And it really prevents us from taking action on things that we want to do in life. It really prevents us from creating the necessary change in our disciplined habits to make our lives better. It really prevents us from really understanding people's values and opinions and just focusing on ours. It prevents us from doing something great in our lives. And I think of this quote too: God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And I think when you just hear that, it just soaking that in and just understanding that you shouldn't just let you can't talk to yourself bad like that. One book I totally recommend reading is What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. It really it's a book just about reframing your mental programming to talk to yourself more positively overall. I think a lot of us have, and it's in nature where people go towards the negativity bias when it comes to situations. And I think that book really helped me reframe my mindset on, you can mess up, you're gonna fail, but you should give yourself grace all the time, as God would gives us his never-ending grace of, you got this, keep going, keep doing you, stay true to who you are, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Think about that little shift. If you, for example, I think of one thing I like to say to myself is, a lot of people get up early and they're like, oh, it's so early, like, do I have to really get out of bed? What if you change that around and say, wow, 150,000 people died yesterday and I get breath in my lungs because God gave it to me. I'm so blessed. Think about it. Look it up. 150,000 people die on average every day around the world. And we all have breath in our lungs today to take advantage of the day that God's given us. I just think it's truly amazing. Think about that mental switch too when you wake up. If you just say that to yourself, your heart just feels happier, you just get a smile on your face, and you just get a really desired determination and motivation to do something with the day. When it comes to this overall, just reframing our mindset too, I think, like I've said too, just leaning into faith really helps this fear overall. The fear of men says, I can't. Faith says God can. When you put your faith in him, faith just overall will conquer anything. And I think that's just a huge mindset change that I've really experienced this past, I would say 5 months too. It's been fairly recent where I've just really opened myself up to be a little bit more courageous, to be a little bit more open with others. And I think I've just really tried to be a shining light. As I've talked about in previous episodes, my dream in life is just to be the brightest light that I can be for other people, and I pray that that is somewhere in everybody else's dream too, as if we all can unite as a light, man, this world would change. So that's just one little tip that I recommend when it comes to imposter syndrome. We all deal with it. It's okay. Just understand, when you lean into faith, God says you can, people will say you can't, and people will also be your biggest haters, but when you succeed, they'll be your biggest cheerleaders. So think about it like that. If you're really trying to do something different in your life and you've got that feeling that you can't do it, just think about that, and it'll totally change your mindset and sight. So one thing I always recommend when it comes to these topics is journaling. Journaling the wins, journaling what you're feeling. I think when it comes to this fear specifically, writing down in a journal every day of just one fear you overcame and one thing you learned today, you'll just start to see the pattern of growth. So I've been doing that recently as well. I've reflected. I recently just looked at like my journal that I started back in 2018, and wow, man, what a journey it's been since then. If you look then, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, and if you look at my journal now, it's a little bit more lighter and a little bit more joyful. So I think when you write down something that you overcame recently and something that you learned recently, you'll start to see the growth, and you can go back, and if you need to refresh on something, or you forget something that would be really applicable to your life today, I think it's good to reflect on, okay, wait, I think I wrote about this sometime in the past, let me go take a look. When you start to do that, you see the growth over time, and you really just open your eyes up to a whole new world of, wow, I'm growing, let's just keep tackling it one day at a time. One really good Bible verse about this is Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. I think that is very applicable to the fear of man, just because as more earthly values tend to take over our lives, that especially as of recent with all the evil kind of going around, and our culture today of hookup culture and just a lot of earthly values, I think it's really cool to really sit on this verse of just not conforming to that and understanding God's purpose in all of our lives, and just having that growth mindset is just a spiritual renewal that leads to mental transformation. You put all that together, you start to see the world just in a different lens and a different paradigm. So with all that said and done, I think one challenge that we can all do this week is just do something that scares us. I think something that aligns with our purpose, something that stretches outside of our comfort zone is always good to tackle at least once a week, if not once a day. I think just stretching outside the what we call the comfort zone and going into the stretch zone really puts our mindset in like, I can actually do this. I think one thing that I have overcame recently, it was back in the winter time actually. I was trying to find new friends as I moved up here, and I was trying to find a good community to be around, and I went on this app called Nextdoor, and I made a post of saying like, hey, I'm a 23-year-old young adult around here. I'm looking for a community to be a part of when it comes to just going to Bible studies or just finding a church. And somebody replied with it saying to go check out this church in Oconomowoc. I was like, that sounds incredible, let me go check it out. And it's been my home for the past 9 months or so now, where I've gone every Monday that they have it, just to be with young adults, to go over the word and have crucial conversations that really allow us to dive into our Bibles and thought processes of life. And it's just been such a blessing. But if I didn't go outside my comfort zone to make that post, because I've been so insecure when it comes to posting anything at all, I would not have found that community today that I'm so blessed to be a part of. So I encourage you to do something this week that really puts us in our stretch zone. I'm going to try to do the same. I think when it comes to this podcast or just starting another YouTube thing, I'm going to put myself in a stretch zone and really try to learn and dive into how I can be a better person overall. So a good verse when it comes to this is Hebrews 13:6. The Lord is my helper. I will not fear. What can man do to me? I think that's so good to soak in, because once you realize that narrative of what can man do to me, if you get over that, it's pretty much over. I think one verse I've posted recently too is Luke 1:37, where nothing is impossible with God. And I think that's so true. If you just really give it all to him and you really focus your heart in faith, like I said earlier, God says you can. So with all that, I pray that you're able to stretch outside of your comfort zone. I hope that you're able to overcome your fear of man with these tips and tricks. Make sure you write in your journals every day. I'll be praying for you guys as always. And like I said, go check out that book, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. I think that's just a really good book. The book is by Shad Helmstetter. I might be saying that wrong, but definitely a good book for when it comes to reprogramming your mindset of being growth-minded, being positive, driving out the negative, your mental programming, all that stuff. So definitely recommend checking out that book. Like I said, if you like what you hear today, make sure you like and subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe. And I just pray for a great week ahead for you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love you guys always, and I'm so excited to take on this journey with you. Love and joy always. Peace.